Picture this. It's March 2025. Alex Rivera, the golden child of Hollywood, the face that launched 1,000 brands, the voice that topped every chart, sits alone in a Malibu mansion worth more than most countries' GDP. Just 72 hours ago, he was accepting his third Academy Award. Tonight, he's scrolling through headlines that read like obituaries for his own soul. Rivera exposed. AI deepfakes reveal secret addiction ring. Fallen idol, how Hollywood's sweetheart became its biggest monster. The leaked neural implant data doesn't lie. The casino debts, the underground pharmaceutical purchases, the encrypted messages to underage fans, all of it spilling across every screen on Earth like digital blood. His publicist stopped returning calls. His wife filed for divorce via Instagram story. Even his mother released a statement through her lawyer. Alex Rivera had everything. Fame that bent reality to his will. Wealth that could buy small nations. Adoration from billions who would have gladly died for a single glance. And in 3 days, it all became ash in his mouth. But here's what haunts me about this story. It's not unique. It's not even surprising anymore. In 2025, we devour these implosions like a sacrament. Our feeds overflow with the wreckage of the once untouchable. Pop stars whose metaverse empires crumble under tax evasion scandals. Tech moguls whose affairs are exposed by their own smart home devices. Politicians whose deepest secrets spill from hacked neural interfaces. We feast on their downfall with the same appetite we once reserved for their rise. Yet somewhere between the voyeuristic thrill and the righteous condemnation, a darker question emerges, one that reaches beyond the red carpets and into the shadowed corners of our own lives. Why does the pursuit of everything we're told to want so consistently end in the destruction of everything we thought we needed? Why do those who seemingly win the game of life so often lose the game of being human? And perhaps most unsettling of all, as you watch Alex Rivera's empire burn as you scroll past the next scandal, as you double-tap the next celebrity meltdown with that familiar mix of fascination and horror, have you ever wondered if you're watching a mirror? There's an answer to this riddle, but it's not what you expect. It comes from a philosopher who lived 2 centuries ago, a man who saw through the glittering facade of human ambition to the suffering that lurks beneath. His name was Arthur Schopenhauer, and his radical pessimism might just explain why 2025's biggest stars keep falling from heights that should have been unreachable. The question isn't whether you're ready for this truth. The question is whether you can afford to keep living without it. Arthur Schopenhauer entered this world in 1788 like a prophet, arriving early to his own apocalypse. Born in the free city of Danzig to a merchant family drowning in respectability, he would spend his entire life watching human beings chase their own destruction with the dedication of artists perfecting their masterpiece. His father died, possibly by suicide, when Arthur was 17. His mother, Johanna, became a celebrated novelist who hosted intellectual salons while treating her son like an unwelcome reminder of her former life. She once told him directly that she found his company unbearable. He would later write that he never experienced genuine love from another human being. Perhaps this is why he saw so clearly what the rest of us spend our lives trying to ignore. While his contemporaries like Hegel were constructing elaborate philosophical systems that celebrated human progress and rational triumph, Schopenhauer was studying something far more honest. The Upanishads, the ancient Sanskrit texts that spoke of illusion and suffering as the fundamental conditions of existence. He was among the first Western philosophers to seriously engage with Eastern thought, and what he found there confirmed his darkest suspicions about human nature. But it was Immanuel Kant who provided the philosophical foundation for Schopenhauer's devastating insights. Kant had argued that we never perceive reality directly, only our mental representations of it. Schopenhauer took this idea and twisted it into something far more profound and disturbing. He proposed that behind all our perceptions, behind all our thoughts and experiences, lies something he called the will, a blind, insatiable force that drives all existence. The will, according to Schopenhauer, is not rational. It has no purpose, no goal, no ultimate destination. It simply wants. And it wants with the intensity of a starving animal, the desperation of an addict, the fury of a storm that destroys everything in its path. In his masterwork, The World as Will and Representation, Schopenhauer laid out the architecture of human misery with surgical precision. Life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom, he wrote, and these two are in fact its ultimate constituents. Think about that for a moment. According to Schopenhauer, there are only two states of human existence: the pain of wanting what you don't have, and the boredom of having what you no longer want. Everything else, love, ambition, creativity, spiritual seeking, is just elaborate decoration on this fundamental structure of suffering. The will manifests differently in each person, but its basic operations remain constant. In some, it appears as sexual desire, in others, as the hunger for power, wealth, or recognition. In still others, as the need to create, to build, to leave some mark upon the world. But regardless of its specific form, the will always operates according to the same cruel logic. It promises satisfaction, but delivers only temporary relief, followed by renewed craving. Schopenhauer watched the European aristocracy of his time, their elaborate parties, their political machinations, their endless pursuit of status and pleasure, and saw not civilization, but a sophisticated form of self-torture. The more they achieved, the more they needed to achieve. The more they possessed, the more possession possessed them. He witnessed Napoleon's rise and fall, the Romantic movement's celebration of passionate striving, the Industrial Revolution's promise of technological salvation, and in all of it, he saw the same pattern: the will driving human beings to chase illusions that could never provide the peace they desperately sought. This was not pessimism for its own sake. Schopenhauer genuinely believed he had discovered something crucial about the human condition, that our suffering is not accidental, not the result of bad luck or poor choices, but built into the very structure of conscious existence. The will that gives us life also guarantees our misery. But he also offered a way out. Through art, through compassion, and ultimately through the complete denial of the will to live itself, human beings could potentially transcend this cycle of striving and suffering. The great artists, the saints, the mystics, these were the individuals who had glimpsed the possibility of liberation from the will's tyranny. Yet even as he prescribed these remedies, Schopenhauer remained convinced that most human beings would never take them. The will is too strong, its illusions too seductive, its promises too compelling. Most of us, he believed, are doomed to repeat the same cycle of desire and disappointment until death finally grants us the peace we spent our lives failing to find. As we'll see, this 19th century philosopher's insights into the machinery of human suffering have become more relevant, not less, in our hyper-connected, celebrity-obsessed, instant gratification world. The will that Schopenhauer described has not disappeared. It has simply found new and more powerful ways to express itself. But what exactly is this force that Schopenhauer called the will, and how does it operate within the human psyche to create the conditions for spectacular self-destruction? To understand this, we need to descend into the psychological mechanisms that turn our deepest desires into our most reliable sources of suffering. Schopenhauer was writing decades before Freud, yet his insights into the unconscious drives that govern human behavior were remarkably prescient. What he called the will, Freud would later describe as the id, that primitive, irrational part of the psyche that operates according to the pleasure principle, demanding immediate satisfaction regardless of consequences. The will, according to Schopenhauer, is not some abstract philosophical concept. It's the force you feel when you lie awake at 3 a.m. scrolling through social media, knowing it's destroying your sleep but unable to stop. It's the compulsion that drives someone to check their ex's Instagram stories 6 months after a painful breakup. It's the mechanism that transforms a successful actor into someone who needs just one more hit of cocaine, one more sexual conquest, one more standing ovation to feel alive. But here's where Schopenhauer's genius becomes evident. He understood that the will creates a feedback loop that virtually guarantees suffering. When we desire something, we suffer from its absence. When we obtain it, we experience a brief moment of satisfaction, what psychologists now call hedonic adaptation, before the pleasure fades and the will fixates on something new. This is why lottery winners often report being no happier a year after their windfall than they were before. This is why celebrities who achieve everything they dreamed of often spiral into addiction, depression, or self-destructive behavior. The will operates through what Schopenhauer identified as the illusion of the ego. We construct elaborate narratives about who we are, what we want, and what will make us happy. Celebrities, perhaps more than anyone else, live within these carefully constructed representations. They become brands, images, personas that may bear little resemblance to their inner reality. The Alex Riveras of the world don't just perform on screen, they perform their entire lives, creating false selves that promise to protect them from the will's demands while actually amplifying them. Modern psychology has confirmed many of Schopenhauer's observations. Daniel Kahneman's research on happiness reveals that our emotional peaks are indeed fleeting, that we adapt quickly to positive changes in our circumstances, and that the anticipation of pleasure often exceeds the pleasure itself. This is precisely what Schopenhauer meant when he wrote that the satisfaction of a wish ends it. Fulfillment was the end of the attraction. But the psychological trap goes deeper. The will doesn't just create desires, it creates the illusion of control. We believe that if we can just achieve enough, accumulate enough, be loved by enough people, we can finally satisfy its demands. This is what drives the celebrity's endless pursuit of bigger roles, higher fees, more followers, better reviews. Each achievement feels like progress towards some ultimate satisfaction that always remains just out of reach. The cognitive biases that modern psychology has identified, the illusion of control, the planning fallacy, the impact bias, all serve the will's agenda. We consistently overestimate our ability to control outcomes, underestimate how long projects will take, and exaggerate how much future events will affect our happiness. These aren't bugs in the human operating system. According to Schopenhauer, they're features. The will needs us to keep striving, keep pursuing, keep believing that the next achievement will be the one that finally brings peace. This is why scandals often erupt, precisely when celebrities seem to have reached the pinnacle of success. The will doesn't disappear when its demands are met. It intensifies. The actor who wins an Oscar doesn't feel satisfied. They feel terrified that they'll never top this achievement. The musician who creates a masterpiece doesn't rest. They panic about what comes next. The pressure to maintain, to exceed, to constantly prove themselves becomes unbearable. And so, the will seeks other outlets. If professional achievement isn't providing lasting satisfaction, perhaps sexual conquest will. If fame isn't filling the void, perhaps wealth will. If public adoration isn't enough, perhaps private transgression will provide the intensity that success has failed to deliver. The scandals we observe, the affairs, the addictions, the financial crimes, the abuse of power, are not aberrations. They are the will's desperate attempts to find satisfaction through increasingly extreme means. Schopenhauer also understood something that modern psychology is only beginning to acknowledge: that suffering serves a function. It cuts through the will's illusions. When someone loses everything, their reputation, their relationships, their career, they sometimes experience a clarity that success never provided. This is why some celebrities describe their public disgrace as the best thing that ever happened to them. Not because they enjoyed the suffering, but because it finally broke through the will's deceptions and allowed them to see reality without the distorting lens of constant striving. But even this insight can become another trap. The will can co-opt spiritual seeking, therapeutic healing, and personal growth just as easily as it co-opts fame and fortune. The celebrity who finds religion after a scandal, the star who emerges from rehab claiming to be transformed, the public figure who writes a memoir about overcoming adversity. All of these can become new forms of representation, new ways for the will to assert itself. This is why Schopenhauer was so pessimistic about the possibility of lasting liberation. The will is not just a drive, it's the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. To truly transcend it requires not just changing our goals or our behaviors, but recognizing the futility of all striving, all achievement, all attempts to find lasting satisfaction through any form of worldly engagement. Yet paradoxically, this recognition, if it's genuine, can lead to a different kind of peace. Not the satisfaction of getting what we want, but the relief of no longer being driven by the need to want anything at all. Walk into any coffee shop in 2025, and you'll witness Schopenhauer's will in its purest modern form. A teenager livestreams herself drinking a latte to 3 followers, desperately hoping this post will be the one that goes viral. A middle-aged man refreshes his crypto portfolio every 30 seconds, chasing digital currencies that exist only as collective hallucinations. A woman curates her vacation photos with AI filters, transforming her actual experience into content designed to generate envy from strangers she'll never meet. But these are just the shadows of a much larger phenomenon. In 2025, celebrity culture has become the will's perfect expression, a machinery of desire so sophisticated, so pervasive, so technologically amplified, that it makes the royal courts of Schopenhauer's era look like quaint tea parties. Consider the scandal that isn't hypothetical anymore. In late 2024, we watched Kanye West's final meltdown unfold across 17 different platforms simultaneously. What started as erratic tweets became deepfake sex tapes, became leaked therapy sessions, became a cryptocurrency scam that bilked fans out of millions. The will, amplified by artificial intelligence and social media algorithms, had created a feedback loop of self-destruction so intense it bent reality around itself. Or take the phenomenon of neural influence, celebrities who've had their brain patterns digitized and sold as NFTs, allowing fans to literally experience their thoughts and emotions. When pop star Luna Silva's neural data revealed her struggling with suicidal ideation while performing her hit song, Living My Best Life, the cognitive dissonance broke something fundamental in our cultural psyche. Millions of fans had to confront the fact that the joy they'd been purchasing was manufactured by someone in profound psychological pain. This is Schopenhauer's nightmare made manifest. Not just the pursuit of illusion, but the industrialization of illusion. The will has learned to market itself. Social media platforms have become will amplifiers, designed with the precision of particle accelerators. The algorithms that determine what content goes viral are specifically engineered to trigger what Schopenhauer identified as humanity's core drives: sexual desire, status competition, and the fear of death. Every swipe, every like, every share feeds data into systems that become more adept at manipulating our deepest psychological vulnerabilities. The celebrities trapped within this machinery aren't its masters. They're its most visible prisoners. When influencer Marcus Chen's smart home devices were hacked in early 2025, revealing his conversations with his therapist about feeling completely empty despite having everything, the exposure wasn't just a privacy violation. It was a glimpse into the void that Schopenhauer said exists at the heart of all achievement. But the technology has made the will's operations more visible than ever before. Biometric monitoring reveals that celebrities experience stress spikes not during their failures, but during their successes. Award shows now require medical staff because winners frequently collapse from panic attacks at the moment of their triumph. The data doesn't lie. Achieving everything you've ever wanted is a physiologically traumatic experience. The metaverse has created new frontiers for the will's expression. Celebrities can now exist as permanent avatars in virtual worlds, interacting with fans in spaces where the normal rules of physical reality don't apply. But these digital paradises have become prisons. Avatar addiction is real, and its victims include A-list actors who spend 18 hours a day in virtual worlds where they can control every aspect of their appearance and experience. They've achieved the ultimate representation, complete control over how they're perceived, only to discover that this perfect illusion is indistinguishable from perfect isolation. The deep fake revolution has made even identity itself fluid and uncertain. When every image, every video, every recorded statement can be perfectly fabricated, the line between representation and reality dissolves entirely. Celebrities must now live with the knowledge that their faces, voices, and bodies can be used to say or do anything, regardless of their actual choices. The will's promise of control over one's image has become its opposite, complete loss of control over how one appears in the world. And yet, the public's appetite for these spectacles only grows. Each scandal generates more engagement, more content, more opportunities for the algorithms to learn what keeps us watching. We've created a feedback loop where celebrity suffering becomes entertainment, which generates revenue, which creates pressure for more dramatic forms of suffering. The financial architecture of modern celebrity is itself a manifestation of the will's logic. Celebrities must constantly expand their brands, launch new product lines, enter new markets, collaborate with new partners. The pressure isn't just to maintain relevance, it's to achieve exponential growth in a world where exponential growth is mathematically impossible. The result is celebrities endorsing cryptocurrency scams they don't understand, launching businesses they have no ability to manage, making promises they can't possibly fulfill. The political dimension adds another layer of complexity. In 2025, celebrities are expected to have opinions on every social issue, every international crisis, every technological development. Their silence is interpreted as complicity, but their engagement opens them to attack from all sides. The will to be loved by everyone has created a scenario where being loved by anyone becomes increasingly difficult. Perhaps most disturbing is how children are being inducted into this system. Social media platforms now have special interfaces for users under 13, where every aspect of their content is optimized for engagement. We're creating a generation that will never know life outside the will's digital amplification systems. Their entire understanding of reality will be mediated by algorithms designed to exploit their psychological vulnerabilities. The mental health crisis among young influencers is just the beginning. Suicide rates among content creators have doubled in the past 3 years. The pressure to constantly perform happiness, success, and authenticity while living under the scrutinizing gaze of millions of strangers is breaking human beings in predictable ways. Yet this might be exactly what needs to happen. Schopenhauer believed that suffering serves a purpose. It cuts through illusion and reveals truth. The celebrity scandals of 2025 aren't anomalies to be solved. They're symptoms of a system that has finally become so absurd, so obviously destructive, so transparently hollow that it might collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. The question is whether we'll recognize this collapse as an opportunity for liberation, or simply as a prompt to build better, more sophisticated forms of the same fundamental delusion. So here we are, watching Alex Rivera's empire burn in real time across 1,000 screens. The neural implant data keeps streaming, each new revelation more devastating than the last. His addiction to synthetic dopamine, his gambling debts to AI-powered casinos, his desperate messages to teenagers whose attention had become his only remaining source of meaning. And as we watch, as we scroll, as we consume this catastrophe with the hunger of vultures at a roadside accident, Schopenhauer's voice echoes across 2 centuries with uncomfortable clarity. Almost all our sorrows spring out of our relations with other people. But perhaps Alex Rivera's downfall and our obsession with it reveals something more profound than just another celebrity scandal. Perhaps it reveals the precise moment when the will's machinery becomes so visible, so undeniably destructive, that we can no longer pretend we don't see it operating in our own lives. Because this isn't really about celebrities, is it? It's about the promotion you're chasing that you know won't satisfy you. It's about the relationship you're trying to perfect that feels more like performance than connection. It's about the social media metrics you check compulsively, despite knowing they measure nothing meaningful. It's about the endless scroll through other people's curated lives while your actual life sits unexamined in the background. Schopenhauer's genius wasn't in his pessimism, it was in his diagnosis. He didn't believe human beings were doomed to suffer because the universe is cruel. He believed we suffer because we consistently mistake the map for the territory, the representation for reality, the pursuit for the destination. The celebrities collapsing around us aren't villains to be condemned or victims to be pitied. They're canaries in the coal mine of human consciousness, showing us what happens when the will's demands are amplified beyond all reasonable limits. Their scandals are our scandals, played out on a scale large enough to see clearly. But Schopenhauer also offered something radical, the possibility that recognizing the will's futility might be the beginning of genuine freedom. Not the freedom to get whatever we want, but the freedom to stop being driven by wanting itself. This doesn't mean embracing despair or abandoning all goals. It means developing what Schopenhauer called the better consciousness, the ability to observe the will's operations without being completely enslaved by them. It means finding forms of engagement with life that don't depend on achieving, acquiring, or being validated by others. The saints and artists Schopenhauer admired weren't special because they escaped the human condition. They were special because they found ways to work with it that didn't require constant suffering. They discovered that the peace we seek through achievement might actually be found in the spaces between achievements, in moments when the will's voice grows quiet and something deeper becomes audible. In 2025, as we navigate a world designed to exploit our deepest psychological vulnerabilities, this kind of awareness isn't just philosophical luxury, it's survival strategy. The same technologies that amplify the will can also reveal its operations. The same connectivity that feeds our addictions can also connect us to wisdom traditions that offer genuine alternatives. But the choice is always individual. Schopenhauer couldn't save us, and neither can understanding his philosophy. The will operates through each person's unique psychological makeup, creating patterns of desire and disappointment that feel utterly personal even as they follow universal laws. As Alex Rivera's story continues to unfold, as the next scandal breaks, as the next celebrity falls, as the next technological innovation promises to finally satisfy our deepest needs, we face the same choice that Schopenhauer faced in his cold rooms in Frankfurt. Will we keep believing that the next achievement, the next purchase, the next validation will be the one that finally brings peace? Or will we consider the possibility that peace might be found not in getting what we want, but in understanding why we want it in the first place? The celebrities burning across our screens can't answer this question for us. They can only show us, with perfect clarity, what happens when the question goes unasked. The rest is up to us. But as you close this video and return to your feeds, as the algorithm serves up the next scandal, the next outrage, the next perfectly curated moment of someone else's manufactured life, remember this: you're not just watching the will operate, you're participating in it. The question Schopenhauer would ask is simple. What if you stopped? What if you just stopped? The silence that follows might be more interesting than anything trending on your timeline.